Greetings, I'm Epictetus, and this is Epic Tech. And I'm here today for kind of a special, separate episode because we are getting ready for the finales. I'm not sure exactly of all the details, but one way or another, I need to prep this world a little bit, and I have brought in Equinox, one of my favorite people in the entire server. Sorry.
Good thing there's only two of us.
Yeah, there's just the two of us. So somehow you're one of. I guess I would be the other one.
Igor. I hope you
Igor.
like yourself.
Yeah, I do, but I don't normally count myself among that list. But Igor would be number one.
Yes.
I mean, he did help me build this stuff. So all of the Igors. Anyway, but you are here to help us work on the performance of the server. And we are actually on the dedicated server that we will use for the party.
Yes, this is the same server.
Yes.
As actually all of the servers you run will be on this server eventually.
This is also true, yes. So this is the same dedicated server that the Medieval Engineers patron server is on. We're going to be moving over the Interstellar Rift server here, and as I add more, which I'm planning on, they will also be on this dedicated server. It's pretty beefy. It's got some really good performance, and we've been happy with it so far.
Yes, it is. It's a very nice server.
Yeah. At this exact moment in time, it is trying to run my world, and my world is kind of hard on servers.
It's hard on pretty much every computer.
This is true, and you've helped me with it in the past, actually, cleaning things up and making it at all functional. So you'll see in the upper in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, you will see that I've got that Shift F11. Is that what I hit?
Yes,
like
Shift F11
seconds ago. So Shift F11 brings that up. If you hit it again, you get more information. If you hit it again, you get ridiculous amounts of information, and then even more. And then again, it turns off, and then one more time, and you get that one. That's different. Wait a minute. What did I do? How am I getting more? What?
You know,
that's weird.
I always forget how to show just the really simple one.
Hang on. You do Shift F11 once, and then you wait a second, and the rest of the information disappears.
Oh, hey, would you look at that?
That's bizarre.
I'd never noticed that before.
I never did either. So you do it once.
Well, whenever I was mashing through Shift F11, I can never find that menu. Suppose that is why.
Yeah. That's funny. So what if you actually want the rest of the information on that screen? I guess you hit Shift F11 again, and it comes back. Yeah.
Yes.
It does. Now, if I wait a second, will anything disappear off this one? No. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go through. We really only need the FPS, the UPS, simulation speed, server simulation speed, GPU and CPU loads. Why don't you explain those right there once again? I know I did in a previous episode, but we're going to explain it one more time. You let me know because you can explain it better.
All right, so the first counter on there is the one that everyone's familiar with, frames per second. That's how fast the world's being rendered. On Space Engineers, that's completely separate from how fast the world is being updated. So that's the second counter, updates per second. Space Engineers targets 60 updates per second, and that corresponds to a simulation speed of 1. So 30 updates per second is a sim speed of 0.5, and so on. Since we're on a server, well, actually, this will show up everywhere, but on a server, it can be a different number. The server simulation speed is how fast the server is updating. The CPU and GPU load are, they're pretty much what they say, but they're kind of weird. And so 100% CPU load does not necessarily mean your CPU is 100% loaded. For the most part, you should just look at the sim speed and the updates per second.
That makes sense. I guess the one nice thing about CPU load versus GPU load is knowing what you need to upgrade next if your computer is underpowered. So if you've got a lame graphics card, you're going to see that GPU load maxed out or very high numbers, while your CPU load is a little lower. In my case, I'm actually running a pretty old i7 and a brand new GeForce 1080. So that explains why my GPU load is lower than my CPU load. I'm noticing, it's been a while since I've been up to the control room, and I just realized that all my lights are different colors, not because we're on a server, but because I accidentally colorified my base.
Yes.
I had forgotten I did that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. We've been talking about performance because when we go and have this party, this end of series party, I'm going to try and get as many people onto the server as possible. I want to, like, members of the public and my patrons, and I'm going to invite some VIPs that I hope will show up. And I want to make sure the performance is as good as it can possibly be without compromising the world. So I don't want to shut off everything, but certain things are going to have to get shut down. Things are going to have to be removed entirely. And you're going to help me figure out which is which. So what is the most important thing, do you think?
Well, so there's two things that contribute to, well, three things that are the major factors toward having a low sim speed. The first is the physics. And this is just things floating around. If I put a block in the middle of nowhere and let it drop to the ground, that's a physics updates. And actually, it's very important. Things that are not moving don't contribute very much to physics updates. Even if they're still dynamic, they go to sleep when they're not moving, and they don't check for updates very often.
Unless something
really,
happens,
things that
I
are
assume.
Yes, things that are moving are the things you really have to look out for. And kind of a bad thing about rotors and pistons and all those things is they do a lot of tiny corrections. That means they're pretty much always moving. And if you look down at the ground here, we can see a shadow dancing around a bit.
Yeah. What's the deal with that?
So that's probably something that's not moving around on the server, but it's definitely causing trouble locally.
Okay.
What happens is on the server, this item that's casting this shadow is in a slightly different position on the client. So the two of them update, and then the server tells the client, no, that's in the wrong spot. And then the client freaks out a little bit and corrects it and causes more trouble. And it can cause these weird oscillations.
Okay, so it's when the client is calculating in a slightly different way than the server.
Yeah, okay. When the sim speeds are slightly different, or the client is a little too slow, things like that.
Okay.
So things like that, though, contribute to bad performance on the physics updates.
But what's casting this shadow?
Well, since I've already looked at this world once, if we go up here to where your horrifying beam drill contraption is, you might see it doing a few strange things.
It's jumping around a little bit, yeah.
Yes.
Wow. That was terrifying.
Yes. And while nothing will really get destroyed because it's not moving on the server.
That was horrifying. I thought I was going to die.
Yes.
So we need to do something about this beam drill.
Yes. And the first thing to try is to basically effectively lock everything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your outlook, Keen got rid of safety locking. And I know rotors have rotor lock. It's not the same.
Okay.
So the first thing we can try, though, is to go through and, for instance, oh, wow.
It's not safe to get too close to that, is it?
Yeah. Well, actually, it's perfectly safe, but it's perfectly safe on the server. Oh. Yes.
That's just
so the first thing is to go through and set pistons and rotors and everything to not moving. Even if they're at one end of their travel, it's still beneficial to change them to not moving at all.
Did you already change this one?
Yeah, I changed that one. The Actually, I suppose it's
Oh, what max
yeah.
impulse axis?
So these are some of the new changes that Keen added. Now you can set the breaking point, or basically the maximum amount of force the piston can exert
Okay.
along its direction of travel is on the axis, and the
It's
other one is for correcting when it's not. So if someone pushed the top of the piston over, it would exert up to max impulse non-axis to keep it in place. So the other thing we can do is change those to 0.
okay. That seems like a good idea.
Or, well, to the lower number.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
which one have you done? Have you
I'm doing the one over here. The
Okay,
one
I'm
that's
going to also get the rotor. Have you done you haven't done the rotor yet, right?
I have not done the rotor because
Okay.
it does not have a convenient control panel.
I happen to know how to find the rotor, so should I bring the torque down?
Yeah. Go
Oh,
ahead and
rotor
reduce the
lock.
torque. Yeah, you can do rotor lock as well. I think it might have already been on.
It wasn't for at least one of
Wow.
these.
Well,
Oh,
so
okay.
the
This
biggest
one's
difference is now between the old setup and the new physics they have is it used to be that you could tell basically the physics that made up the beam drill and all of that to what was known as welding, where you would ugh, something might have just happened. No, that was just a very big lag spike.
okay. Well, I did make some changes, but
Yeah.
nothing seems to have done anything. Except,
Yeah, that happens.
Okay.
So another thing you can try, and this is with the new stuff, is you can tell everything up here to share its inertial tensor.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yes. That basically will keep it from spinning wildly,
Okay.
more or less. So that should help.
That made the oh, there we go.
So what that does is it basically makes it so the amount of force required to spin the beam drill is kind of like the amount of force required to spin your entire base.
Okay.
So it makes it so it's a lot more stable. However, this is still kind of a little strange. Like if I run into it in jetpack mode, it still bounces around a bit. But all in all, this is a lot better.
Yeah, it is. While we're here, these upgrades right here.
Yes.
Tell us the story about the upgrades.
So when I was first looking at this world, I was doing some profiling, and there are tools that Keen provides, and there's also a tool for server admins called Torch that let you profile your world in a very in-depth way. And one thing that pretty much every server admin looks at is the performance of production blocks like refineries, assemblers, things like that. And those, if you're familiar with Minecraft, those are what you would consider ticking tile entities. So they actively consume CPU power on every tick or every 10 ticks. So they're one of those things that people want a lot of because they want things fast and they hurt your sim speed. So one thing that you can do to try figuring out if they're actually an issue on your server is you can go through and turn them all off. And while we could actually go through and turn all of these off, I will just do, since we're on a dedicated server, I can just run a command.
Now that's because you've got Torch running, which we should probably
Yes.
explain as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
This server is running a piece of server software called Torch, which is an extension on the dedicated server software provided by Keen.
It's basically Space Engineers Server Pro, but written by the community.
Correct.
Okay.
So while these refineries and assemblers might not have updated their emissives, you can go in and look at them, and they are all off. Every single one of them in your entire world. I disabled 69 refineries and 87 assemblers.
That's
Yeah.
how many refineries and assemblers I've created on my world. But that's the entire world. So that's
Yes.
on connected grids, but that's on disconnected grids. That's back in
Yeah.
the treehouse. That's any that are left on the moon. Yeah, that's all over the place.
So the funny story with upgrade modules is that you would think they don't really have to do very much. They basically tell the production block, hey, you're upgraded, and then they don't do anything else.
That's what I would think.
However, there was a strange issue that I ran into where they were causing sim speed lag, and I found this with the profiler. So when you see stuff like that, one of your first things you do is you'll turn them all off, and I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And you can see all of the emissives stopped emitting green. Or at least they got dim. So now every upgrade module, all 537 of them in the world,
Holy
is turned
cow.
off.
I had over 500 upgrade modules.
Yes.
Wow.
And one of the interesting things about the way the code is written for these is that it doesn't matter if they are off. If they're off, they still consume the same amount of processing power each tick as if they were on, which is a problem because even though by itself a single upgrade module is pretty trivial, 537 of them is not so trivial.
I know.
And everyone uses, 4 upgrade modules per refinery or assembler. So they are a very common block.
Well, I mean, just the fact that you said I've got 87 or whatever refineries, but I've got 500 upgrade modules.
You have about 4 times as many upgrade modules. So I'm going to use another magic command, and this one is going to hurt the server speed quite a bit while it runs.
Okay.
I'm going to I'm going to get rid of every single upgrade module in the world.
Delete them?
Yep. Because
okay.
all 537. And there's the sim speed drop I was talking about. When you remove blocks, it really hurts.
Well, it has to go through and actually remove them. Like, it takes time.
Yeah. It has to update all of the block physics.
But are we going to see an overall improvement?
We may. It's
okay.
One of those things that's a little hard to say.
Yeah. Not to mention it might only be an improvement. It might not look like it right now. I just saw a 0.8 server simulation for the first time since we logged in, I think.
I would actually remove all your production blocks, but as far as I can tell, they don't actually cause, when they are off, they don't do anything.
Okay. And you've already turned them off.
Yes.
Okay.
And also, if I removed them, you would probably have things floating around that would start falling.
Not to mention that I want people to be able to come down here and see this as it is. It's not that big a deal to be missing all the upgrades. But to be able to see the rows and rows of refineries and all that kind of thing, that's part of that's part of the experience, exactly. The ambiance.
All right. Well, it occurs to me that my oxygen level is getting awfully low.
Oh. Well, we should probably do something about that. Speaking of which, actually mine's getting low too, but hang on though. We have another way to vastly improve server simulation speed, right?
Yes.
That's related.
Air
tightness and really just oxygen in general. Shall we? But that requires, of course, a log out and log back in and a reboot of the server. Yeah. So we'll be back in a moment. Actually, let's go run and jump in a cryopod and that way we don't have to reset things.
Okay.
Are you on?
Yes.
There you are. Okay, so we are back and there's no oxygen. My helmet is open. There's no oxygen here, but I'm not suffocating because oxygen is completely turned off and not calculated. The most important thing about this is that when you do have an airtight area and you change it in any way, it's got to recalculate and figure out whether it's still airtight or not. Am I correct about that?
Yes, that is correct. There are some tricks that it does to make it slightly less terribly slow, but it's still a pretty expensive operation.
I've always wondered something. And maybe you can tell me this right now. This thing rotates all day long every day unless I walk up to it. And I've always wondered how much is that really affecting my sim speed or
Probably
anything?
close to nothing.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, that's one entity with one constraint, and it's not interacting with. So one of the things in the physics engine that's really expensive is there's different classes of colliders, and a lot of things like a cube that's really cheap. A bunch of cubes together is really cheap. Triangle physics like voxels, very expensive.
Ah.
So things sitting on the surface of a planet, that is not good. But things that are on the surface of the planet and jittering around a bit because they can't seem to make up their mind on where they want to go, that's really bad.
Okay.
But things that are calmly spinning, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. Then I can keep my pretty server core.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what's next on the list?
So it occurred to me that we should have, before I restarted the server, considered turning off block destruction because you're planning on doing that for a stream.
Oh, that's true. Yes. For the stream, we'll turn off block destruction because I don't want, somebody hopping into a ship and then flying it into something else and then everybody's sitting around while the tower falls. Or,
yes,
because if that tower falls, which don't worry, I will do it at some point in time before the end of this series because so many people want to see that tower cut down. And honestly, so do I. So
of course,
I'm going to have to disable several safety things involved in order to make that happen because I think I even converted the middle tower into a station. So the whole tower is technically not able to fall until I actually make it able to fall. But
yes,
I don't that's going to probably be a disable all that stuff, cut something off at the bottom, and then walk away and come back 2 hours later and then speed up the recordings from the angles I was looking at it because holy cow. The amount of time it's going to take to process that thing falling is going to be insane.
When I was doing one of the testing how many people this server could handle, everyone wanted to get into the elevator and then crash it. And then we got all the way down there. We crashed it with quotes. And then I was like, oh yeah, block destruction's turned off, guys. And everyone was so disappointed.
It's so funny. Oh, that's great. So yeah, so now you've done 2 tests now, right? You did one with the patrons and then
I never actually did one with the general chat because there was only going to be 3 people.
Oh, so, that's funny. Oh, it was kind of a last minute thing. That's why.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to throw out that little plug for becoming an Epic Tech patron.
You get to have your hopes and dreams crashed when
that's true. Yeah.
Shattered when the server admin tells you block destruction's off.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing you get when you're a patron. That and finding out that the Medieval Engineers server is down or just. But there's fun things in between the disappointments is what I'm saying. What else do we have on our list of things to do?
Well, currently I am turning on the server side profiler into profile everything mode to try to find some more things.
Okay. Also, there was something you said before we started recording. You said, wait, let me do something, and you flipped a switch, and the sim speed dropped, and you said, let's start with that. What was that about?
Okay, so one of the plugins that Torch has, the server management tool, is called Concealment. And Concealment basically lets you say everything that's more than like 20 kilometers from a player, freeze it in the world, do not update it, do not update its physics, do not do anything with it. So
So,
that's like a super powered version of turn off things that you're not around.
okay. Well, that's cool. So that means that absolutely nothing that could be happening on the alien planet to the original MBT will be affecting our
Yes,
sim speed right now.
correct.
Okay.
Um,
Is that
there are a
on right
couple
now?
things. No, no, that's still off. Currently, I'm just checking to see what is causing
Okay.
thing issues. And surprisingly, we've got some turrets, some oxygen generators.
You can turn off all the oxygen generators.
Yeah, and besides that, I think it's mainly just a lot of blocks.
And that's just something that's going to happen. I have a lot of blocks in this world.
Some timer blocks, so programmable blocks. Things like that probably compose about 10% of the current tick.
We'll turn them all off.
36 timer blocks turned off.
I just saw all the ones over here turn off.
Yes.
Because the thing is things like I'm also going to be turning off all of the Igors, like everywhere.
Yeah.
I always leave them called factory off. All factories are off now. If I were to break something, Igor would, every Igor within range would immediately go, "Hey, there's something to work with," and then they have to work with each other to decide which one
Yep.
is, and all kinds of craziness. And then, hey, let's draw a whole bunch of actual nanites flying around, and
Yeah.
it's a wonderful mod. I love.
Let's talk to the huge conveyor system that spans from your asteroid base down to the planet.
What?
Figure out where to pull it from.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
something about 40 kilometers worth of piping. I just don't know what could possibly be a problem with that.
Actually, I don't quite remember. Is your entire conveyor, are all the conveyors that there are junctions in
Two.
there?
Yeah, there's
The
two
connectors
junctions
per segment. Because don't you have the connectors, which means you have the junctions in the conveyor piping?
Oh, you mean like the conveyor blocks versus
Yes.
tubes? Yeah,
Conveyor.
there's at least one every 100 meters.
So here's something I will
Or 100
mention,
blocks, sorry.
that if I have 100 of those tubes in a line, it's one conveyor junction.
Oh.
So, yes.
So less of these is better.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Because if you have a bunch of conveyor tubes in a row, it can just say that's one big tube.
right. So it's basically
Not do that with the junctions.
you could think of it as sections that turn green or red together.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that would be a good way to think about it.
That
Unfortunately,
could be a
that
problem, yeah.
giant tower is
Yeah.
got quite a few conveyor segments in it.
Well, it's every 250 meters. It's
Yeah.
40 kilometers. So we're looking at, hang on, it's a quarter. Ow, my brain hurts. It's 4 per kilometer. Oh no, it's not so bad. It's 4 per kilometer. So it's 160.
Yeah.
About 160 of those junctions.
Yeah.
From here
Considering
to the
you
planet.
have, I don't know, at least 8, like within sight.
Yeah, it's not as bad
Not a
as
big
it
deal.
could be. All right. Anything else that we can think of?
I forgot a production block earlier when I disabled the refineries and assemblers. I forgot oxygen generators.
Oh, yeah. Definitely get those turned off because we definitely don't need those.
All 56 of them.
And I don't know about you, but my sim speed and server sim speed just hit 1.
Yep.
Wow. So the only issue with that, and I might just turn on 1 or 2 oxygen generators. The only issue with that is generating hydrogen fuel.
Pretty much everything that talks to the conveyor system can be a big problem, especially on something
Even
big.
the refineries and assemblers weren't doing that much.
Yeah. That's because they were managed. Actually, your oxygen managed him, aren't they?
Oxygen generators, yeah, they're managed by Tim, but Tim's not running right now.
Oh, yeah, but Tim still configured them.
I don't normally manage them with Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why. Interesting. So really, Tim, in a lot of ways, is a performance improvement.
Well,
Come
I
on,
wouldn't
come
say
on, let
that.
me have this one.
Because Tim still does all the same work. Tim just make it so it doesn't have to do it twice.
Okay, so I believe it's this one over here. Timer block 1 second. That should be it. Turn that on. Okay, so Tim is actively running.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing any server simulation issues.
Yep. So if you do look at Tim, though, if you look inside the programmable block, it actually tells you the runtime per cycle.
Yeah, actually, I've got the full screen up here. Like that's so I've got it set to do on 10 cycles.
Yep.
And
you can see that. How often is it doing a cycle?
Once a second.
Yeah. So you can see, though, 4 milliseconds, maybe 3 milliseconds on average.
So that's the way
that
I've
was
configured Tim. If I set him up
Yeah.
to run constantly, that would be a problem. Okay, so now this is running once a second, and it's doing everything in once a second.
And every time it does something, it's taking 20 milliseconds, which is like 1.5 ticks.
Yeah, per second.
So if someone had set this up on a server to run this every single tick,
oh, that would be nuts.
Yeah, actually.
So
for the heck of it, let's
set it for every tick. Let's see what happens.
There we go. Trigger now. Okay, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised it hasn't like crashed or something, but no, it's perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, and it appears to be running every tick. Oh, maybe they added something in here.
It might be smart enough to not allow it to run every tick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I'm not going to bother removing that because that's a fine safety for it.
And I'm not seeing the simulation speeds drop below 1. As a matter of fact, most of the time it's a little bit higher than 1.
Yeah.
It's
pretty normal on a server to see the sim speed fluctuate around
5 seconds. There we go. Just that way when there's a whole bunch of people on here, it's not going to do very much. But Tim still will be running, which will mean it'll be keeping the basics containers full for people.
Yeah. Which, who knows what the access rights on those are.
Yeah, I'm going to have a few things to do with access rights, which for the most part, I think what I'm going to do is go around and give public access to things like doors and and the teleporters and things like that, and then leave everything else pretty well locked down. Yeah. Just to simplify, like, I want to make sure that the server runs well, and I want this to be more of a museum than an interactive piece, honestly. As much as I would love to let everybody just fly my ships around and stuff, it's not going to be good for the server as a whole. Yeah. Now, you're going to be here for the stream, right?
Correct.
So you'll be able to do some of this stuff on the fly if we start seeing the sim speed dropping dramatically and it's affecting people's good time. That's when we can start doing stuff on the fly. Okay. I'm really happy with the results of this. We just took a world that was painful to work in, honestly. And granted, we had to disable a bunch of stuff. But, I mean, I no longer have upgrades to any of my devices. And a lot of things are turned off. But still, I hope that people watching have gotten ideas for how to maybe speed up their own older and yet troublesome worlds. And if people want more information about either Torch or the profiler or any of that kind of stuff, I'll have some links down in the description to whatever I can easily link to. I'm sure there's stuff out there. That is more advanced stuff, so if you're not really into this kind of thing, you probably don't even want to try. Personally, I'm in that category. I'm not touching Torch or any of the above. That's what I have Equinox for. Also, Equinox is the author of several mods.
None that I would consider fabulous, beautiful mods that deserve the limelight.
That's
Although
probably
your
true.
suit,
My suit
is
is
lovely.
pretty dang awesome. I mean, I have to say that my suit is pretty awesome. So if you want to wear the Epic Tech suit, then I'll see if I can put a link in the description. And you have a brand new version of this for medieval engineers, which
I can't believe that there are the 120 something subscribers to that.
Hey, apparently people want a giant statue of me in my space engineer spacesuit in their medieval world. I don't know why, but if you really want to have a giant epic Titus in his spacesuit standing in your world, then you can download the mod from Medieval Engineers. It was put up more as a joke than anything else, and then people liked it. Saturday, January 27th, 2018 is when we are going to be doing the official Season 3 party, the finale. And we're, like I said, we're going to try and get as many people in this world at the same time as possible. And I think we got a pretty good chance now of getting a lot of people on. And you're actually working on some stuff for Torch that will allow people to basically come in for a certain number of minutes or have a certain number of slots for certain kinds of people and all kinds of crazy cool things.
Yes.
And that'll help. So, you might not be able to hang out for the whole time, but hopefully, if the line's not too long, you'll be able to get in yourself and tour my world. And if you either can't make it because of the time or because the line is too long to get in, then I will be releasing a copy of this world on the Steam Workshop for your pleasure. I think that's just about it for this episode. As always, comment, like, subscribe, etc. Drop by the Discord server and check out my Patreon page. There's a link to that in the description as well. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we go, Equinox?
Nope, I don't think so.
All right. In that case, I'll see you next time on Epic Tech. Good. Glad you did that. I will edit that in. Okay.
The derpiest cheer. Like, it kind of makes sense considering you're in a spacesuit.
Yeah, but you can only do so much in spacesuit. I wouldn't expect him to be backflips or something,